So is it possible to like get another TV or something so we can put beacon up? You know, when we have stuff come up where instead of handing you a little map, you can look at it on.
That'd be a great question for them.
I think we just have to have a second computer.
Oh, you have to have another computer.
Which girls do.
Because there's already a TV in that room and then we have this one too. So I think we would just need a second laptop. Yeah, there's that too. Which we have here, but we just didn't have the second laptop. So
So we'll just move that projector with us.
there's one down there already. We're good to go whenever, Travis.
There's nothing on the TV.
Did it not turn on? In other words, don't move it now. Don't touch anything. Okay. I think we're good then.
Okay. Got 9 o'clock.
We got 9 o'clock, we call the meeting to order. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mochler.
Here.
Packard. Here. Smith. Here. Manning is absent and Hammond.
Here. Conflict of interest declaration. Hearing none, approve agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion passes. Approve minutes. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye, pose same sign. Motion passes. Are there any visitors to be heard that aren't on the agenda? Hearing none. Lauren.
I just have my quarterly report. You can see in your packets, it has most of June, July, and August. June and July were pretty busy with events and activities that were going on. Those were well attended. We got through the fair successfully. And then on page 2, you can see that Clay County was represented very well at our state events this summer. So the state horse show, state dog show, and then state fair, we had a lot of kids placing in the top 5 in the state and several grand champion overall. So that's really good to see. Some upcoming events, we have recognition event in November. So that is the next thing that we are starting to work on now, putting all of the awards together. And October 2nd through the 8th is National 4-H Week, which is the week that we recruit, promote, celebrate 4-H. And I have one request for you guys, and that was a couple of months ago, I saw on the front lawn, someone had put, I don't remember what they were promoting, but it was those little pinwheels and they had some signs out. CASA. May I do the same thing for National 4-H Week? I'd like to put some yard signs and green pinwheels out there and stuff. Okay,
Sounds good to me.
I'll tell Scott. That is all I have for you, I believe.
Any questions for Lauren?
Good job.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sounds
thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
Guys.
Drew.
The city reached out to me and asked me if any of the county commissioners would be interested as the delegates for our joint jurisdiction comprehensive plan. Smaller meetings. We haven't done it in the past, but I think it's a very good idea. So, any volunteers?
When will the meeting start?
I don't know when they're gonna start.
Yeah.
City. I'm not sure, but
Yeah,
sometime next month, I don't think.
I'd be really interested in doing that.
Yeah, I was interested in part because I have property there.
Sure. And that's it. I think probably need a vote, just the one of the delegates.
Somebody make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Betty Smith and Dick Hammond to the joint jurisdiction. Comprehensive plan, city comprehensive plan.
Plan, yeah.
Are there two positions available, Matt?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll make it simple. I'll second it. Usually I don't, but since Mike's not here. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Motion passes. Anything else, Drew?
That's it.
Rod, we can get started, but we still can't open those bids until 9:30. So we'll start with the surplus of the 1999 Roscoe self-propelled and the 97 Freightliner semi.
Yeah, we purchased a newer broom and our new semis in. So I don't know, it has to be published for a couple weeks before we can get rid of it, correct? Or is that just when you put it down, it's good to go? I don't know. I do have a question. George had a sale coming up next week, but at the beginning, they didn't think there was gonna be much equipment, so I pulled the broom and that off. Two reasons, we haven't got the new ones yet. And they didn't really want it, so, but I put out a feeler through Christy Jacobson, and I got like 7 counties that want it, so can I just like put it out for sealed bids? Is that how we
That'd
do
be
it? So do we have to come up with a price to let them know, or what the minimum would be, or just take what we get, or?
Well, we can always reject them.
Okay.
I would just take what we can get.
That was my other question for Jerry. Is that something that we just do, or is that another one of those that's gotta be published for a couple weeks?
Well, I think if you're gonna put it out for sealed bids, then yeah, we'd have to publish.
So were they interested in both pieces or just?
No, just,
Just,
we figured next spring they're having a bigger consignment sale, sounds like, with some of the other counties bringing equipment. They'll be online. This is a live auction, and they think they get a better price for our stuff, I could put a feeler out to the other counties, see if they're looking for something, but normally everybody's looking for something that has a tag axle, now it doesn't. That's one of the main reasons. Good little truck, but it's too small. We can't get a tag axle. Too short without going through a whole bunch of stuff, so.
do you know what that semi is worth? Or could you get an estimate?
The way stuff has been going as well, I'd hope it'd bring over 20.
But I mean, we could try and sell that. Now is a good time to sell that semi.
The other ones in Sioux Falls won't be able to get it for another week, but we can live without it. I mean, if it's,
Well, by the time it's advertised, by the time we get it out, it'll be gone.
so do you wanna advertise that through here, or do you want me to put it out through Christie? She just sends out a blanket email to all the commissioner, all the superintendents. And that's how I got the inquiries on the broom.
I think we could do both.
Yeah,
And I think we can do, I don't know, I think we just put it out there as 25,000 our best offer.
I think you've got new tires, fairly new tires.
Maybe 25.
yeah.
It's a 97 though. That's gonna,
Yeah.
that's gonna catch it.
It's probably worth that much.
You know, everybody's looking for the older truck, so they don't gotta deal with the depth
Mhm.
and that stuff. That's
Yeah.
pretty depth. It's got a good Series 60 Detroit in it. So, and it's got a wet kit.
Really?
Yep.
It's 25 enough. That's 5 or 6,000.
I think that's about it, right? Wet kit,
Yeah,
13 speed.
so it's got a 13-speed rotary engine too.
Yeah.
And the, what kind of an engine?
60 Series Detroit, like a 4 1/4.
Yeah,
I think Rick Ford did a test on this, like 4 1/4, 4 1/2 somewhere. It's got plenty of power. But we bought that in 2015 down in Sioux City, you know. Or 2006, I mean, not 15. So, and we haven't done anything to it. It's a good old truck. That's why I hate to see it go for a little bit of nothing. And I've looked around at used trucks and holy cow, it's bad as used tractors. You just won't buy a new one, get the warranty. But everybody's talking that it don't have the depth or the regen or none of that new emissions on it, so they're kind of,
Can we put a box on it? Can we put a box on it?
we could have box on it.
Do you need it?
Well, we still, I don't know, do we need another truck? We talked about that one time, taking the fifth wheel off and putting a box, but then we're back down to a tandem axle again. It'd probably be a shorter box than what we have on our frames on our new Freightliners are longer than
Oh, okay.
this one. It did have a small cab on it. We made it into a day cab a long time ago, but there still ain't enough. You know, to get that third axle in there. But yeah, I could put a box on.
But you don't need it.
I really don't. We still have one of the old Sterlings, I guess we get rid of those Sterling and put a box on that. Let me get an estimate on what it costs to put a box on it before
Okay.
I can get that easily in the next day or two
yeah.
from Sanitation Products.
If the cab axle is long enough on that to fit that particular box, then
Yeah.
might be a good option.
It is a setback for an axle, right? Yeah.
When we surplus this, does that mean we need to set it in the lot, and not use it or drive it until the new one comes in?
Yeah,
If that new one
We
ended up
would.
like,
we would. I mean, the new one sitting in Sioux Falls, they just had to fix a little dig in it and transport rock chip and go through, and they go through and tighten all the bolts again. And so I expect they'll call 1st October and we'll be all fixed up.
so it's a sure thing.
Oh, yeah, it's,
But we shouldn't. Oh, go ahead.
that's the one that they wanted us to pay $7,000 more for. Remember, I brought that
Right.
to your attention on how big it. So I got that settled. It ain't happening.
Yeah.
I told them, we just got a tractor, you keep it, no, we just thought maybe you'd feel generous. I go, hey, it ain't me. I don't feel
No.
generous either, but hey.
No, the correct answer is no, we don't feel generous.
So we just won't surplus the semi today.
Yeah.
We'll just
okay.
surplus the sweeper.
Yeah, that's good.
That's fine.
Make a motion to surplus the sweeper.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Anything else on that, Rod? Okay. Structure 14-140-02.
Yeah, that's our. The lawyer was in, talked to you. So Dennis and I flew the drone that afternoon. And there is a little difference than what I thought. You know, Dave Olson Farms on the west side, and there is no creek there. Well, that's because the creek comes from the south side of his property, right along the fence line, and right down the vacated road, and then crosses under that. So there is water, possibility of water going through there.
How much?
Oh, it comes in there pretty good, I think. We never drive back there. We used to check that little bridge. That was on our list. But the bridge is still there and I just can't get in there. Everybody's got a corner around it, waiting for maybe some cut silage so I can sneak in there, but I haven't been up there this week. But I talked to Alexis and Drew one morning and there is a creek, that runs through these people's property that I don't see any problem with putting a 36, maybe a 48-inch culvert, and they want to be landlocked. I don't think we should have to do it. But I mean, there's other ways than putting that bridge back in to get to that little acreage. And it is pretty rough there, it would take some fill, but there's plenty of fill there where they can level it out, put pipe in. That's my opinion. But that little bridge is still there. Can't tell you what kind of condition it is. I'm sure you could drive a four-wheeler across it. That'd be about it.
Were you able to get in touch with anyone?
So,
Larry never,
No, I never did talk to you.
okay.
so I did mention that to Mike McGill, and he provided some correspondence to me, turned it all forward on to you guys and see where you want to go from there.
Okay.
Just won't stay there.
Yeah. Anything else on that?
You're putting me in the hot seat.
So,
Okay. Hub City issues.
yeah, so we're the same lawyer that talked to us about the structure. I don't know, what do you call it? No, they sued or anything, they're just Brendan and his wife Richardson up there.
Richards.
They are still complaining that that turn that goes to the north, has been there forever, is their property. Well, now, they sent me a picture, they want to put big boulders out there so people can't drive in there. In that property, I don't know who's driving it, ain't us. We had cones there for a while, I don't know.
This is to the north of their house.
Yeah, that's by the old station.
Yep.
Going around there, so I don't know what they are asking.
Yeah, so I was a little bit unclear on that as well, and Mike and I had a conversation, and I would echo Rod's comments that, I don't think this is anything, no one's threatening lawsuits or anything. It was just more, for lack of a better word, wanting our blessing on them to put these boulders up there. And I expressed to Mike as well concerns about such things. I said, there just really isn't a mechanism for us to do that, to tell them, yes, you're good to go on that. Their frustration is that members of the public come through and cut through there. And he showed me some pictures, and there are some kind of deep grooves in that, and it keeps getting further and further and further encroaching on their property. My only deal was, I said, geez, I get their frustration, but boulders seems kind of concerning to me, and definitely not something that we as the county would be interjecting into that for a variety of reasons, from a public safety standpoint and just civil liability, those types of things. Definitely understood where we were coming from there. And so I said, I just don't know an avenue that they would have for us to be involved in that process. We discussed a little bit about maybe some fencing. I don't blame them. Yeah, that's difficult for them, but this seems to be an issue that I think they probably just need to figure out a way with the assistance of their attorney to address. Whether they're going to put up some pole cams or something to capture who's doing this. I don't know. It isn't something that we're encouraging by any means. It isn't something that the county really has
what I would say control over. So I haven't heard anything after that.
So the problem is clearly outside of the right of way. We don't have any right of way easements to that area that's in question here.
No. But what they're doing, why is they look at Beacon and Beacon shows they're coming out quite a ways farther. Their property, which shows it encroaching in that curve, just a little corner of the curve there.
Yeah,
But as far as, I'm glad Lexi pointed that out to him, because boulders is less
yeah.
we want there, especially in the winter time. When it gets slippery, somebody come around, not even
That's what they
trying
want.
to do any damage, they're gonna slam into them.
That's what they want our blessing.
You know, I can't, I mean, that's inside that 10-foot safety zone, you know, and I don't know the speed limit on that. Do you know on
For
that,
10-foot clear zone,
is that just that, is it lower?
that it depends on a few things, you know, like the road use, and the daily traffic counts on that. So we can look it up, but it would not be, ever be less than 10. It could be up to 4, it could be as much as 14.
Because within 20 feet, they have somebody, they're supposed to be stopping anyway.
Right,
So I mean, the speed limit, by the time they get there, they better be doing 10.
and we've already put lights and everything else up there due to their request, I'll say. But I definitely would not like to see boulders on the edge of the road there.
And I think we had a good conversation about that. I would hope that would
I mean,
not be the route. So I don't know that they're gonna go that route anymore.
well, the only thing I would approve is if they put a guardrail with breakaway posts. And I don't think they would do that.
Could they put a fence up there? Like say a rail fence that would be not a hazard to the public, yet would delineate the property that they want to protect?
Mike and I discussed that and, I think kind of implicit in that is then it's gonna be damage to their fence. That would be expensive. But I mean, that would have more give to it than a boulder would. And throwing out there an idea was also, I said, I don't know if like a snow fence, it'd be ugly, but, but I mean, something that would have some give to it, but that would draw attention to this is the property line. But I think it's really kind of in their court right now to do what they think is appropriate with their property.
Yeah, because it should be their decision what they put there within reason, I guess. But we certainly, and I think that they want our blessing so that they could relieve their liability, but I doubt if that would relieve all of their liability anyway. They would end up just getting sued in conjunction with us. We would probably be a secondary.
And I think, my impression is there's just a general frustration of their property is getting damaged and they're looking for solutions of how to, I don't blame them for their frustration. I just don't know what else to do.
Sure.
My
Seems-
question, go ahead.
It seems to me like a nice split rail fence would solve the problem and not be a terrible eyesore.
The only thing-
Unless they don't like split rails, they could have
The
another
other thing
thing.
about that is we get enough snow blowing in there, the way it is, that's a terrible corner to,
That's true.
I mean, we don't try not to plow the snow out on their property. But,
It happens.
yeah.
Well, there's
I mean,
just a
I
lot
can
of snow to
see-
plow.
I can see us fixing fence there
Yeah,
too. I don't know what the answer is either.
Do we, I'm sure we've discussed this before, but do we need that curve there?
Been there since I was about 10 years old, I can remember being up there, but
Right?
that's often the
But-
worst reason to have something is that it's always been there.
Well, I'm just wondering, out of the four corners, it's the only one with the curve and you have to stop anyway.
Yeah, there's a stop sign there. Why is there a?
Yeah.
Why would that curve? be
I'm just
developed?
asking. I mean, I'm not,
I have no idea why that curve was there. It, you know, there used to be a gas station and a general store. And I don't know if everybody just pulled up there and they drove around and it's just. Since I worked here, we've always chip sealed it. I don't know.
I'm not saying give it back, you know, do anything with the property, keep it, but I was just wondering if we need the curve there.
No, I. Wouldn't
I-
have my feelings either, so I don't know.
I think that's a good solution.
I
too.
would like to see the stop, if that were to be the solution, I would like to see that stop sign moved a little bit. So semis can make that turn. Because
Well,
otherwise
see,
they
that's
take,
why everybody goes with a truck that goes north. That's why they go around that curve.
well, they know how to go around a corner too.
If they're coming from the west, they don't have to worry about that.
No.
Okay.
So,
I don't know. I mean, I don't think we have to make a decision today, right?
no, I didn't.
Just think of-
Because I got, she got emailed too, I think at the beginning of the week or in the last week or something, so. Just wanted to, so that something don't come up and you didn't know about it.
That could give them a choice at least of say, putting a fence in or abandoning the paving out to where it eliminates the curve. And they can plant grass there if they like, put
Like
knickknacks.
what they're gonna gain. If we go by the right of ways, we got 80 foot of right of way going. Through both directions, they get that little corner that I showed you.
Mhm.
You know, and then I don't know what, we dig a ditch. And seed it or, you know, I guess we can look into it and see.
If we dug a ditch and seeded it with that improved drainage, or
It wouldn't do anything.
You know,
I'm thinking that's the case.
You come around and go north. I don't know how far out does the parking lot on the north side for the church come off? Is that, I don't, can't think, is that long driveway going back to the east? Because it made that into a parking lot right on the north side of the property.
Yeah, that's a lot farther north than.
Okay, it's like at the north church driveway?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's straight across.
Cause we got tile. There's a tile right there, it's north of that. I don't know if they put a culvert in that driveway or not. Going to the east,
That I couldn't tell
but
you.
they tiled all the stuff from the church, it always spills up, there's the board up in the road, and there's a inlet on both sides of the road. And that goes way to the creek to the east there.
I don't think we would have to do anything with that corner. Just make sure there's enough room to turn. And somehow mark it to where it's not a curve anymore.
Mill it up, I suppose. I'll check into it and see what we come up with.
Or maybe there's a better solution.
If you get something put together, Rod, and it's appropriate for us to reach back out to Mike and then just see if that's something that they want to do.
That's all I got.
Public bid opening for Road D1 project. Looks like I got 4 of them. Yep. You don't have a letter opener, do you, Karen?
Letter opener.
What's that?
You don't have a letter opener, do you?
I thought there was one with that.
Yeah, right on that side of your computer.
Oh. Thank you. This one's from 3D Digging. Total bid, $95,793.
Was that again? 95?
$95,793.
One's there.
Yep. This one's from Pershing. Is that correct? Pershing Excavating. Total bid, $46,091. This one's from Two Rivers. Total bid, $33,491.70. Connors Construction. Total bid, $65,517. That's all the bids I have. Yep. So Brad and Rod will go over these and we will make this decision next week.
Guys, I'll see ya. All right, see ya.
Anything else for that bid opening?
Now we're good at opening.
Okay. Now we've got the public hearing for a 5-year road plan.
I have a attendance roster. Pass that around. So,
So this is so we could qualify for that big project. And I haven't done one before because we had really no need, all the bridges that qualified were the ones out over the river that were removed.
you want here specifically for that? I'm curious about it, guys. Do you have an extra? Keep that. Awesome. Yeah. So how this works is, you know, we sat down and we kind of put together a penciled out a 5-year construction plan that we submit to the DOT, and there's and I got a copy of it floating around, and I'll of course email it when it's all done. The DOT has some requirements that they.
Maybe you should go to the mic, Brad.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
I'm happy to.
Button up.
So the DOT has some requirements that we submit. And I'm putting them together now. So it's not just a 5-year plan, but there's some other requirements, some mapping. What we've done, you know, if there's any work been done in the past on some of them, there's a certification that's accepting it from the commission. Minutes from, or the roster from this meeting. So a few of the things that we'll submit, and so this is the last, kind of the last step that we'll have, and so I just need that sign-in roster, and I need that, we'll need a motion here to accept the plan, and then I'll submit it to the DOT. They'll churn on it a bit, and then they'll come back with the bottom filled out of when they accepted it, and then it'll be accepted by the DOT, and that'll allows us to apply for the bridge improvement grants.
So how does this relate to the master transportation plan that's just about done right now?
Master transportation plan, and actually I've been working with so I don't do the planning. We got guys, smart guys that do that, but they have a copy of this, and they were kind of folding that in and back and forth. So that master plan is more of a higher level view, and it's for a longer period of time. So that's 20 years. This is, and what we're doing on our first one is, the state regulation is we need to put in our bridge projects into this 5-year plan, and we can expand it. I'm just trying to get one through, so that we, once we get an approved one, then we can do some things. We can apply for the big grant, which is 80-20. Or, well, there's some rules on that, but it could be as high as an 80-20. We have some that we're thinking about doing some rehabilitation, bridge rehab projects. They are a good use of this big grant process. They score really high. I have not submitted for a rehab that we didn't get the first year. So that's a good thing. There's a point system, but rehabs score high because I think the DOT encourages to rehabilitate the bridges before we just rip them out and put in new ones. So.
Similar to what we did on Dakota Street Bridge.
Mhm.
We got that extra money, not from the big program, but they rehabbed the deck and seal coated.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I mean, the bridges are good, the decks are starting to, I call it pock out, all the limestone's coming out.
Yeah.
So we need to do something with it, with, I don't know, there was 4 of them over the Vermillion River of University and on the Volleyball.
Yeah. And that's what we're looking at. Actually, it's very same project, different bridge. We have to look at, they can't be on, they don't, we could do a deck repair, but that dark rock chip seal, the road has to be hard surface and not a gravel road. If it's a gravel road, we don't do that. The DOT won't get on board. They're worried that, the gravel dragging onto it will abrade that seal off.
Question I was gonna ask.
This is the very next one. Yeah. So that's what we're looking at. Any other questions that, and these are a fluid document. We amend them all the time, and I'll take care of that, because sometimes what happens when your bridge inspections come in, that changes your plan a little bit, and then we amend it. But because the DOT requires that it be in the plan to apply for a grant, but they'll let you amend it at any time. So if we have one that's not in that plan that comes back in like this year's inspections, like, ooh, we better do something, I'll take care of that. We'll just amend the plan and do the application. Those applications will be due in January, like January 1 is usually, I haven't seen the official announcement, but January 1. They have 2 rounds. They have what's called a big PE, and that's if you're going to replace a project and you need to do the hydraulics. Those are usually due August. And then they have the replacement rehab applications, and that's for either replacing a bridge or after you've done the hydraulics or rehabbing. Those are usually due in January. That's how that works.
Are you guys aware of any bridges you've noticed that maybe need some help that I may have overlooked or?
Not that I can think of right now. Do these rehab jobs, do they just include deck work or is that for abutment and
It-
approach work?
It can be for any, any of that. Usually. No, I mean, there's been some abutment work. There's been some type girder repair, girder painting. The ones that, most of them, and I think a lot of the bridges we're looking at are slab bridges that don't have girders, is the deck repairs. And we go out and check for delaminations and then we repair those. And then, so basically what we do is we repair the delamination and then they mill off like a quarter of an inch to roughen it. And then they put 2 coats of this epoxy seal on it, is what they do. That's kind of the normal process. Unless if there's more than 10% of the deck area that's bad, then sometimes we do what's called an overlay, where we'll put a new 2-inch lift of concrete over the whole thing, a special low slump dense concrete. So, and that's not uncommon either. It all depends on bridge condition. And don't know that until we get in there and check it for delaminations. We drag a chain over the deck and listen, that's what we do. Okay. Okay, so 2 things. I guess I would need a motion to sign that, and I need that form. Whoops, excuse me, sir.
Oh, I thought-
Oops. Now you've done it. This you need?
Yeah, I need this. I'll just pass that around.
Oh, I see. I should sign? No.
Did you sign that?
I
Oh, okay,
did.
all right.
Excuse
No,
me, I'm
okay, I'll
sorry.
get it back to you here in just a second.
Everybody in signs it, right?
Yeah, the idea is it's not just the commissioners, so we'll have some few non-commissioners sign it too. And
You didn't get any inquiries from the township at all?
no, I did on the other stuff. That I don't think it didn't come in. No, and I went to, you guys at the county thing last week.
I was out of town, so I missed it.
Yeah, so there was some talk about that, giving the townships more time to submit their 5-year plans so that they can apply for that small structure money. I think that's a goal. I did talk to a few, but there's some other requirements. There are some taxation requirements they have to meet. And I told them, just do your best and send it in on time.
I penciled in a date for you too, Brad.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
I think we had 11 out of the, or 10 or 11 out of the townships that have opted out. That makes them eligible. But out of the 12 townships, I received 3 is all.
Oh, so you did get something.
And pretty much every county's is same way. 3, none.
Yeah, mostly
And
not.
like
Yeah.
couple town, like Monhoe, of course, they don't have townships. County takes care of all the roads, so.
And a lot of it was the first time, they didn't know how, and the DOT set the requirements, they didn't set that until in August, and it required them to have it at the end of
31st of August.
yeah, so they didn't give them very much time and either, so that was the idea of, well, maybe they would extend that period.
Did they mention a date? Because I hadn't.
No, I didn't hear a date, they just,
I
there's
just,
a lot of talk about extending it, but no one did, but I'm wondering if that's not up to you guys. I don't know the answer to that. This is the first go around, so. And I suspect on a lot of that is. Nobody else knows either, so no one's gonna tell you no, if we extend that period. I don't think DOT's gonna balk, because the legislature appropriated that money And people are gonna have some explaining to do if nobody applies for any of all that money that the legislature, like, you know. If nobody applies, then it's hard to, and that's a bad thing too, because there's a lot of them out there. If no one applies for the money, then they're not gonna get it anymore.
So if only 3 apply out of 12, are they got a chance of getting a bigger cut of the pie?
Well, I think
Or how does
that's
that-
up that's up to right here is how, is you can give all some, give one all, it's, you know, just, and I can help you too with that too, if you want an opinion on a priority of, yeah, this is worse than this is worse than, happy to do
I
that.
know we have 2 that have a list already.
Which townships have turned in?
Star, the one there by Hope City is at Garfield.
To the east?
Craig Nelson. That,
Yeah,
at Garfield, and I believe one was sent to me by email. I think that was Prairie Center, maybe. I'm not sure on the second one. It came in like under the wire.
Do they still have time?
Supposedly it was the 31st of October, of August. And I didn't go to the convention, so I didn't know they were thinking about it.
Yeah, there was a lot of discussion about that, and nothing was decided. But I think, the way I kind of gathered it is, if you want to accept them, you can. I don't think the DOT's go that route. What I don't know is, so each county got a slice depending on how many of those they got. Well, if they didn't get any applicants, what happens to their slice?
Sounds like it goes away.
Yes, that's what I heard.
Does it go away, or do we who have 3 applicants get their slice too? I don't know the answer to that.
Well, I'm sure your piece of the pie gets a little bigger.
Yeah, it might, but
I think we got like
do they give you,
130, 140,000.
did they physically give you the money, or did they say this is
Well,
what
I
you
think
got?
you gotta apply for this.
Okay,
Unfortunately. I'll go, it's like everything else, they come out with this big thing, a 5-year plan for a township, to me is a big deal. When you got farm guys in the field,
yeah,
when they're gonna just sit down and do this, and then they give them 30 days to do
yeah.
it. To me, it should have been into November or first of the year. I mean, they do the same thing to the counties too,
Or
but
they,
I'm usually sitting in the office, so that, I think,
there was a lot of angst about that.
did you tell me, Carrie, that we had 9 out of the 12 that were eligible, or was it 11?
I think it's more like at least 11 out of
Okay.
12. They might all be.
That
I
was
don't know off the top of my head.
when I answered Doug, or, oh, was Dave, no, the guy that's in charge of that.
Yeah, Dave Huff.
Yeah.
DOT, yeah.
I had to email him back how many I got, and then I told him, well, 3, and we had, I told him 11 out of 12 were eligible. Cause a lot of them aren't eligible if they haven't opted out. Which I don't pay attention to who does that, so.
Okay, so I'll take a motion on accepting the 5-year plan.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion passes.
So I'll make a few calls on my way home too, about that. We get more, if other counties don't spend theirs, and can the commission just extend the deadline? And I'm pretty sure the answer to that one is yes. The DOT wants that money spent. because they get on their face if they don't. And then just, like I say, if you wanna non-connected to the county, like a pecking order, I'm happy to do it, just, you're happy to do that for you too. And I've told others, especially if they're looking to like replace what they have with, like, you know, if they got a 48-inch culvert and they want to just put in another 48-inch culvert, then you could chew through a lot of that money in engineering without doing very much, is where I was going with this one. So if they're doing like a swap, don't call me, just do it.
Just do it.
Now, if they're gonna rip out the bridge and want to put in some pipes,
Just do it.
I don't care. Like I said, I don't care. So somebody else is going to say that. So that would be that would be a place where if they're nervous about that. And what I've told others sometimes too is, you know, if you got a really deep creek, high banks, pasture with no buildings, and we back up water for 2 days, does that hurt anything? But if you got a gold plated soybean field and you flood a bunch of them, maybe better. And that would be up to the townships on how they want to do that, but and they certainly don't have to use me either, but there's not a lot of bucks there. And you know, if we did a lot of analysis, I'd shoot through a bunch of that, not a bunch. So up to them. But there comes a time when you have to have some numbers. If you're gonna get hauled to court, sometimes it's nice to have actual numbers, and then you can get out of a little trouble sometimes. Otherwise, anything else for me? I'm gonna
Thank you,
take
Brad.
these, I'll mail these back to you, Carrie, when I plow through that, and I'll have, your meeting is,
Next Tuesday.
okay, so I'll have a notice. I mean, I don't see any reason not to alert, but I'll have the notice to get here probably tomorrow, so.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next question. If there's a meeting next week or not, so I'll have Larry here, because I'm not gonna be in office next week. I gotta move one kid and marry off another one, so it's gonna be a fun week, plus a funeral in Selby in the middle, so I won't be in next week. I do have one question. I know this was brought up last year at this time. Political signs. What can I legally do? I don't know how to get a hold of these people. There's House of Representatives, there's a couple senator signs out there. I mean, boom, right there in the right of way. I don't know, and I remember, you know, a couple years ago, I picked them up and brought them to the sheriff's office, and then I was told the sheriff or us was not supposed to be transporting any political signs. So I don't know if I take them down, and I don't know, how do you get a hold of these people? I kind of looked for a website for one of them and I didn't find anything.
I think Lexi's got an answer.
So every political candidate has to file information either locally with Carrie's office or with the Secretary of State if it's a statewide election. And there should be contact information for them with one of those offices. And we can help you find that too, Rod. if you
Okay.
need that.
Okay.
Good question.
That's what I need to know. Thank you.
I was just gonna say exactly what Lexi said. I can get you the information.
Okay. That'll be a lot quicker than.
Yeah, this is Andy. We typically notify the candidate when we receive a complaint.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, if that's all you have. See you in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
You can see Larry's smiling face. Try calling in sick, probably.
Well, for you, Rod, we'll cancel the meeting, so you're here. Everybody get to see the vouchers?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. And everybody got to see the department head reports? Okay. Jerry Wilson and the appellants of the Heine subdivision conditional use permit. You can step up, Jerry, but
Sure, thank you.
so before you start, if this is about the CUP, which I'm assuming it is, that was passed, we cannot discuss this. Your attorney's already been in touch with our attorney for preservation of documents, which means an impending legal lawsuit. So as defendants, we cannot speak with the. So I'm sorry, so we cannot discuss today anything about that CUP.
Can we not speak?
You can, but it can't be about the CUP.
Okay, well, then I'll just talk about being denied the opportunity to speak.
Well, you're not, because if that's what you wanted to speak about, you were
I'm
able
not
to
going to talk
speak.
about the CUP.
Okay,
In all of my years as a commissioner and in all of my years attending county commission meetings, I have never one time witnessed someone on the agenda being denied the right to speak. That's called prior censorship. And I don't believe that that's acceptable in a democratic society. I do understand why the state's attorney, Tracy, doesn't want to hear from us. After all, it was she who intentionally misquoted the county ordinance.
okay,
to justify
we're done now.
this conditional
We're
use.
done. We're not discussing this, Jerry. And you just brought it up.
Yep, okay, well, I will,
We cannot have a conversation with somebody with pending legal.
okay, there's only one lawyer who has threatened to sue the county, and that is not our lawyer.
Correction.
Jerry, I do want to make a point of clarification of that. Your attorney communicated with me. And so if you're unfamiliar with his communications, I suggest you visit with him about that.
No, I
He
think we,
communicated, okay, so then that's an inaccurate statement. And it's an inaccurate statement to identify that I have falsely done anything. I owe an obligation to my board. My communications with them regarding potential or pending litigation is specifically exempted for a variety of reasons from open meetings requirements. You know, if you want to stand up here and advise some things, that's your prerogative to do that. But to make personal attacks on me,
it's not a
I'm-
personal attack.
it absolutely
It
is.
is not.
And it's out of line. It wasn't on the agenda. Secondly, your attorney advised us in no uncertain terms in multiple different avenues how he intends to sue us unless we succumb to your demands.
No, not true.
That
we have-
is exactly what the communication was, and advised preservation documents requests. So if you're unfamiliar with those things, I suggest you speak to him.
No, we have all the communications, and I know what he has said to you and what you have said to him. But the applicant's attorney overtly and directly threatened to sue the county if his clients didn't get their way.
Both of you guys, it's comical that you each accuse the other of the same thing. I would say you both have advised us that if we don't do what you ask, and the board made its decision. And that's the process. This is not the appropriate venue to litigate a matter in a commissioner meeting. That's not the
board made
appropriate.
its decision on the basis of false information that you provided about the county ordinance.
Shame on you, Jerry.
We're done with this.
Okay, I will then repair to the office of the Plain Talk editor, and we will discuss this with the public. Thank you.
You can discuss it in the court of public opinion. That's fine. As long as it's not about the CUP.
So the reason that I'm down here today is, so the CUP piqued my interest in reading these sections of the ordinance carefully, but I believe that the ordinance was misread in the appeals process. And so it is actually a general question of, and not necessarily specific to this. Going forward, I would think that same question should be addressed. So I sent all of you a letter. I know that I referenced that CUP at the very end of the letter, but the entire body of the letter is generally just about reading the ordinance. And so
You all have the letter, so that's my comment. So thank you.
Okay. So if nobody has anything else not pertaining to the CUP, we're going to keep moving on. 2023 budget discussion.
So I have a question. You know, I'm just trying to remember South Dakota Achieve, which is incorporated in the budget. Remembering exactly what that covers. Is that developmentally disabled?
Yes, as I understand it, it is, I think they're Lifescape now. I think they were bought out by Lifescape, so that would be similar to SESDAC.
But it's a statewide organization.
Is Lifescape statewide?
So they're a nonprofit, just like SEDAC, they're just much larger. They're out of Sioux Falls is their primary office, that they have different locations here in the state, and they provide services to various county residents from the various counties, but have, like I said, services in Sioux Falls primarily for adult and children supported.
And so, Carrie, how stable is that estimated cash contribution to the 23 budget? Is that 274,523? Is that, you know, in terms of estimate?
I think that's pretty stable.
So the only change I would like to see, and I mentioned this last week for folks to kind of think about, would be to add back in the 3 libraries. And I guess I have a few rationales for that. You know, one is that it really is a government service that these libraries provide to non-city residents, which is to say residents of the county and not the city. And I know that, you know, in Vermillion last year, the Library Foundation actually kicked in that $4,000. They can't keep doing that. I think they may be able to do it for another year after that, but I think as a matter of, you know, I think we have to think about this as a matter of policy. You know, are libraries an essential public service? I would argue that they are. And, you know, I think outside of schools, libraries are the most important things that we can do for kids. You know, you know, I grew up in the library, and it made an enormous difference in my life. You know, they're not asking for much. They're not even asking for a proportional share, you know, which would be much, much more than for Vermillion 4,000, and I'm sure for Wakanda 2,500. I mean, the bulk of the payments for libraries goes from the cities. which makes some sense because, city residents use them, but, using Carrie's calculations, it would increase the budget by less than 1/10 of 1%. I think we ought to do it. So I'll make a motion to restore funding for Irene Library in the amount of 1,500, Wakanda Library in the amount of 2,500, and Vermillion Library in the amount of 4,000 for a total of $8,000.
And that would be Beersford Vermillion, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, Beersford,
So how much total is that?
8,000.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second.
Is it time for discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
I was informed by a resident of Beersford, not Beersford, but Union County, that they could not get a card to the Vermillion Library, which I found rather disturbing. I did call yesterday and found that there's a $45 annual fee to get a card. I cannot support this unless we look at some of the others. It is just as important, if not more, to make sure that we are feeding these kids. We have eliminated how many other programs that are in desperate need, of which the libraries are not in desperate need. They are, it is a helpful, it is wonderful. I agree, they're terrific. But when it comes to, I'm not sure what's happening with the WH over. I know they are in a really bad position. Not sure what's happening with their building, but if what's happened with the entire contents, if they don't have their building. What kind of money is there? I'll state the Arts Council puts in 10,000 a year to their operation that is member supported, if not more, 10 to 15,000. That is local personal money that helps the operation. I'm not pushing for the Arts Council this year. We actually just received another grant from the state to start providing services to the seniors. So we're in this year in pretty good position. But I think there are other organizations on this list that are as important, if not more important than the libraries, and we should look at those equally.
I agree that it would make some sense to look at, I would like to look at teen court, for example. I think a number of these organizations, are really part of the essential fabric of the community. But it would make sense to me since, it would be hard, I think, for all of us to agree to everything. I think it would make sense to perhaps look at these in chunks and make some decisions. I think that the argument I'm making about the library is that it's an essential government service that we ought to be paying our fair share for, so that our citizens in the county who are not part of a municipality can continue to get library cards for free. I don't know that my parents would have paid for a library card for me as a kid. But that was my place. And you know, it made me the person I became. And it's, you know, since the 1920s in the United States, that has been a path of upward mobility for kids across the nation. And I just think, you know, this is not like anything else on the list. And I agree, we should go back and look at this list. I think you're right. You're right, folks. We should go back and look at this list. But I think as a matter of policy, I would love for us to sort of step up and just say libraries belong in the budget every year.
Again, I can support it at half the amount, not at the full.
Well, I don't think we should go through individually, because it's gonna be whatever comes up first is gonna get the money. And then we're gonna get to the end of the list and it's gonna be like, well, we don't have any more money.
Okay,
So
so
it's gonna have to be, we're gonna have to come to an agreement on all of it.
yeah, so the other ones I would suggest would be teen court.
I think the ones that were done last year that we gave to, the
Mhm.
teen court, Lewis and Clark, the Fair Board and Dakota Senior Meals. I think we can all agree on those.
Yep,
What was
Those
that
are-
again?
Those are in our present proposal. aren't
Yep.
Yeah, the teen court,
43K, is
Yep.
that in presently in our proposed budget?
Teen Court, Lewis and Clark, the fair, and what was that? other
Dakota
one?
Senior Meals.
Senior meals,
Senior
yes.
meals.
Mhm.
So those are already in proposal, Betty.
yep.
And that comes up to $42,893
Right.
already.
And then what, you know, well, I think it would be a wonderful thing, you know, to donate to other nonprofits. You know, I'm also very respectful of, you know, tax rates creeping up and so on. So I know things like soil conservation, for example, I mean, it's a wonderful organization. I would love to be able to give them, you know, $25,000 again, but it's just not in the cards. Not this year. And
So that's the balancing act we have to do, because there are people who are going to be just as passionate about soil conservation as you are about the libraries.
yeah,
Soil
but I think,
conservation is what services the county. This is what services
Yeah.
farmers, excuse me, to give them nothing and give the city, city library is, yes, it's countywide.
well, I think in this
It's
case,
just- I don't feel appropriate.
in this case, it is a public service that is part of public budgets across the country. And last year, we did not pay our share for our citizens. If we continue doing this going forward, our citizens will be forced to pay for library cards individually. It will cost them more. And I do think that free public libraries are a basic block of democracy. Without them, I think we're foreclosing a lot of opportunities for kids whose families can't afford to pay $45 for a library card. And now kids can access this stuff from their computers at home. I mean, they don't have to go to Vermillion. They get the service online. Can actually read the book, see the pictures and so on. So
And I know that many of the other entities are also in other counties in South Dakota, as well as definitely across the nation, public service and public funded programs. Again, I can go with the Arts Council. Brookings supports that Arts Council by at least 60% of their budget. Washington Pavilion, I have no idea, but I'm sure the county and the city both have that in their budget. They are seen as public services, just as the library is. So, yep, back to my original of providing a small amount to each, saying, yes, we are in support of you. At this point, it is very difficult to give more.
I think Betty's correct in that I feel kind of bad about fencing out the rural residents that aren't in the county. Because they do end up they will end up needing to purchase library cards. And for instance, in the comparison with the Beersford Library, the Beersford Library does receive funds from both Lincoln County and Union County at this point. And they're asking less, as I recall. I was trying to dial through and see where the numbers
Yeah,
are.
it's 1,500 Beersford's asking for.
How much did Lincoln, is Lincoln and Union counties providing them? As I recall, both of those were providing more money than Clay County is even proposing.
Well, it's not that we proposed it. That's what they asked for.
Yeah, that's what they asked, yes. And I think in the Beersford proposal, they did point out that without it, they too would end up going with charging for rural customers for a library card. And, but they would not if they happen to live a mile north of Beersford or a mile southeast of Beersford. Those counties are picking up that fee.
I find that somewhat a threat like the lawsuits.
Well, it's not a threat. It's just a comparison. There's a difference between
No.
a comparison and a threat.
That they have to charge the county residents. Anyways,
Yeah.
that disturbed me.
Yeah, they have to pay their costs somehow.
We all
And-
do, and all of
and
the
I-
organizations need to pay their costs.
Right.
And
So-
yet they do not charge city to county when even they're not getting any city or county money.
I mean, the city
Let's
provides.
say the Arts Council.
Yeah, the city provides, I don't remember how many millions, but they basically support the library.
They do. And we're taking that as one entity.
Right.
And I must admit, my experience is with the Arts Council. The city provides $2,000, which is earmarked only for children's programs. Everything else, and we have an $80,000 a year budget, is provided by the local or state or federal funds. How is that appropriate? That we are not supporting locally, public local money.
I look at these and I definitely put things in boxes, can't help it. But a lot of these are not, they're nonprofits. They're not part of government. Like libraries are a piece of, they're a piece of government. I mean, it's a long-standing public provision that I think is critical, especially for kids. So.
May I offer a brief public comment?
Yep.
Yes.
So I certainly agree that there are a lot of excellent nonprofits like the Arts Council that provide great public service and try to do it for free. One thing my mind that sets the library apart is the breadth of the services that they offer and the universality of them. So the public spaces that they offer for free are the only free public spaces, anything like that I know of in the county. Any person can have access to the large Kozak room or the smaller room for public meetings. Those are extremely important to all sorts of organizations, including the Arts Council. And I think that people that don't have young children right now might not be as engaged with the library, but they have done a fantastic job of broadening their offerings far, far beyond books. So it is a place where you can go look at South Dakota codified laws, you can see public records, you can use their computers. They have a racks of computers that are public access computers that are extremely important to a lot of residents. And then they have provided a lot of digital offerings that make their all the, you can watch movies, you can listen to music, but you can also get car repair guides, you can get courses, you can actually take courses through the library to like further your education. And it's just, it's a whole suite that is very intentionally broadly appealing. So in my mind, what they offer does set them slightly in a different category than a lot of the other more targeted nonprofits that we have in the county. So thank you.
Yeah, and I think Vermillion Library monthly serves something like over 7,000 patrons. I mean, I think it does put them in another category. And I just don't want to have to tell some constituent that because they live in a rural district, they're going to have to pay for their library card. I don't want to get that phone call.
Well, here's a simple solution, for me anyway. And it looks like the stars have aligned. The library is $8,000 between the three. The Arts Council is $5,000, $13,000 total. Just so happens our raises for the 5 commissioners for this year, $13,000. If we forego our raise, we don't change the budget and those 2 programs get funded.
I'm in.
I don't want to make the decision until next week. Let Mike have his 2 cents also.
That'd be fine with me.
I'm not here. Sorry. And our other vote is someone who won't be elected, or it's not.
But he might throw a wrench into it and say somebody else needs money too. So
Yeah.
we'll see. The soil conservation one, that one doesn't bother me to not fund it because they turned down a $5,000 grant from, was it the water basin?
Correct.
Yeah.
And you visited with them after I did, I think. And I think that's the case. I think it isn't that they turned it down, that they just didn't answer.
Which is the same, I feel.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
So I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just,
And I know that Turner County has made a generous offer to
So we-
help our program along.
yep, and we haven't had that meeting yet.
Yeah.
So,
So yes, I feel a little less troubled by the SCS, the Soil Conservation Service, not funding them at the rate, at least at the rate that we have in the past, if at all.
And they have, I mean, they have the capacity to earn funds. And they do, they have a pretty healthy income from sales every year. And I noticed their activity levels down substantially this year, not sure why. But I'm okay with that. They can still do what they do, without assistance. But yeah, good idea. I like that.
Well, I think you're right. If we continue the discussion to next meeting with that as a proposal on the table, I think it's a good way to move forward.
we still do have a motion and a second on the table.
Right.
So if you're willing to rescind that.
Yeah, yeah, table it for next, rescind it.
Let's
Okay.
rescind that motion.
So anything else on the budget? I mean, anything, not just non-mandated. And that's where we're gonna come in, Carrie, is that 24 point whatever?
Yep.
And that's transferring all the ditch board money also, right? Because we have to put that in the general fund so we can spend it this year, correct? Or how does that?
The ditch board stays in its own, their money
Okay.
stays in their own funds.
Okay, that's what I was-
Yeah.
Dispersed directly from.
Yeah,
that.
it's
Okay.
budgeted directly from their funds.
So what's ditch expense fund 24,300? What is that one? At the very top of the budget?
The ditch expense fund is, that's all the ditches combined there.
Okay.
And so I think you're looking at the last page of the budget, is that right?
Well, I just saw it at the very top, when the
Yeah.
department names.
Yeah.
We have this ditch board split outs up here at the top of the budget.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, yep. That just all stays in its own separate fund, kind of like the emergency management fund and the highway fund, where they're separate from the county general.
and what was the exact dollar amount on the ambulance that we're setting aside this year?
We have
I mean-
already, and pulling it off the top of my head without, going and pulling up the report. We have something like 50 something thousand already set aside. And so we'd have to budget to spend that, and then,
And then there's some in the
and then
bank
the
account.
additional that the ambulance was actually gonna cost.
Okay, so for 23, we're covered there, because
No,
that's,
I'm
the-
sorry, the 50,000 was for 911 equipment. I'm sorry, the ambulance will have like 180 something thousand.
that we'll
And
spend.
then,
Yeah.
yep,
And we were short, we were gonna have.
you're gonna be short about what, 50,000 or something like that.
50K,
Yeah,
So in 24 is when,
Like 46.
so in
And that's already
24 is when we
worked
got to
in.
worry about the new number to start with on the 5-year plan.
Right.
right.
That's what I was wondering. I forgot we had to make up. We were going to be short, so we had to make up for 23.
Correct.
Okay, so in
Yeah.
24 is when we,
And that's all already budgeted in here.
Yep.
So. As is the 911 equipment.
Our contingencies at 130K.
Yep.
That from time to time, we'll have questions that how much money the commissioners are getting, including that 130K. Which is rightfully just a fund so that we don't end up needing to cut the highway department anytime a shortfall comes up.
Or any other unanticipated expenses, and
Correct.
what it really does is just allows you to cover some of those things.
Which
up to
always
that
come up.
130,000 without advertising for a supplement.
Correct.
It's already just kind of budgeted in there, so.
It's not also required by statute. I think you have to have a certain amount of contingency money.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
so.
Yes.
I don't know the statute
Well-
And
number,
it's a
but-
wise statute.
think
And there are a lot of counties that budget a whole lot more than 130,000 for that, but
Yeah.
there is a limit too, so.
but I think what Betty's referring to is, isn't there a certain amount that they make us set aside that's not part of the budget,
There
the
is
300 and
that
some
too, yeah.
thousand?
There's that too. There's a 5%.
It's mandated as well as a really, really good idea.
So, anybody have anything else for the budget? I'm to the end of the agenda. Nobody has anything else.
Vote to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
I
Post same sign. Motion passes. We're adjourned. Thank you.
just something that came to mind as far as the Arts Council. All the money from the state and the feds, none of it is allowed to be spent on any capital improvements.
Yeah.
Or
For the air conditioner.